Good afternoon, everyone. So I welcome all of you to this quite an interesting session on uh, artificial intelligence and how the challenges are being posed with the deepfake things coming up. So we know this technology has come up zooming into our life with a lot of opportunities, a lot of innovations and user experiences. However, with the past few months, we have been seeing a lot of challenges because of certain unethical activities being done using the AI. So we have this eminent panel who will be taking us across or enlightening us around those opportunities and challenges and how those challenges can be taken care of using the technology and best practices. So Tarun, I straight come to you. So as NeoKred, you have been dealing with a lot of banks and fintechs. So what do you think is how AI has helped us to bring out those efficiencies in the entire process or entire ecosystem of this banking or fintech industry?
Sure, it's been very, interesting while we work with brands and banks, how they have come up and, with the kind of problems that they are facing on the recognition front, on the identity as well. There are certain tests that are actively going on right now with the respective financial institutions where we are analyzing every individual data with respect to their photos, videos, to then come up with what is their normal interactions as compared to the deepfakes that are there. Yeah.
Thanks, Arun. I think that's really helpful. So, Ankita, now comes to you something out of the syllabus for you. So while being the cybersecurity expert and working across the companies in fintech as well as non-fintech field, what is the kind of preparations you have now, keeping in mind this innovative threats using AI, especially deepfake thing?
Yeah, first of all, I think, as a cybersecurity vendor, we provide security testing services. So I think right now what's happening in AI is that, that we are seeing really, really high quality, but, fake audio and visual content. So I think when we're doing the security testing, we need to make sure we have to, aware our team members and employees that we're working with that they also look for these kind of things. But I think that can only happen when we leverage machine learning and AI into those processes as well. So when for example, if you're doing a security testing engagement, we need to make sure that we're leveraging the tools that are built using machine learning and AI to be able to detect those threats in AI. So we can only, वो बोलते हैं ना कि किसी चीज़ को किसी चीज़ से ही काट सकते हैं, तो AI को हम AI से ही मुझे वो याद नहीं आ रहा है but.
So what we say is loha lohe ko kaatta hai in Hindi terms, what we say. So I think this is what you are trying to, you're having a thief's mentality while you're catching hold of thieves or notorious peoples in the AI world, basically. So this is what,
I think,
and this is what the role of ethical hackers are
exactly,
basically.
Yeah,
right?
I was coming to that. Yeah. So to be able to break into the systems, we have to think like an attacker.
Okay, great, Ankita. So we also have Mr. Anand with us, who is providing APIs and very, very relevant APIs to the fintech sector, specifically for KYC verifications. So Anand, just want to know that how prepared you are using AI for your things, and what role of AI you think is coming up in KYC verification stuff?
Well, I think if you look at the current trend, I think, especially on the KYC part, AI has started making a lot of inroads now, obviously because of a lot of deep fakes and, kind of trend of the fraud, which is really happening, which is obviously is probably on the top of, probably the companies, organizations, and even the government today, right? And if you look at the, especially in the API part of the KYC part today, right? So one is, what we looked at is to look at areas which can avoid less amount of fraud. Largely, I think especially in the verification, a video KYC or a liveliness check KYCs, where the possibility of using an AI along with, let's say, liveness check has been enabled us to ensure that the kind of fraud checks are much lowered. We looked at some of the cases of biometric cases where where usage of biometric has been able to really reduce. I think classic case of especially the UIDA recently, one of the problem statement that the industry was facing, especially on the AEPS, the Aadhaar-enabled payment system of withdrawal of cash, where we suddenly saw a lot of frauds happening because of the biometric being copied. What UID had done is to also ensure that they're also able to bring in the liveness check in real time on the AI perspective. It's a real case study that really has happened, right? And what we saw that the amount of frauds really coming down because of the real-time liveness check along with the biometric. So we had a real case that's happening across, especially in India, where we're able to reduce frauds. Cases like where we've also done is that, even in case of biometric, we can today look at analyzing the location of the data, where the device is, what kind of devices are getting used. Some of them may be able to look at. Some of the areas where we've been able to look at is also look at behavioral changes. For example, if somebody is trying to do a KYC continuously, let's say for 3 times, what we've done is that we have been able to go and block the system for some time so that we know that somebody is trying to hack the system. So we're able to look at where we're able to block it. Cases where document verification is in place, especially OCR, I think the AI has really progressed well in terms of trying to figure out the kind of fraud, the document that may really come in, right? And I think this has really helped us to, and obviously it's a ever-growing field. It's growing, it's maturing day by day as we start looking at it. And also the frauds are also improving and, they're going up. So I think we're on the top. We obviously have to be on the top of it, trying to analyze data very closely and see and figure out which new ways of fraud is happening. And also analyzing and ensuring that whatever checks that we're putting across is able to reduce as much as fraud that's going on. And I think that's why we have been building up, working very closely with data to figure it out and to keep building up practices to ensure we're able to reduce fraud.
Thank you, Anand. And we wish you all luck for, we hope you are coming up with more innovative APIs and useful APIs for the fintech sector and keep on improving the security segments around the KYC side of it. So we are fortunate to have Mr. Jagannathan with us. He's a data privacy expert and he comes with a global perspective being representing LTIMindtree. So I just wanted to have an insight from you. What is your experiences around the trends or the different type of frauds being implicated around the fintech sector using AI? And what are the some of the key applications or the important applications which has been, I would say, developed to curb these frauds using the advanced technologies like AI?
Right. Thank you. Wonderful opportunity to be in this panel. Well, of course, AI is not new, right? It's been there for ages. It used to be called machine learning. Now they've given it a new name called AI, and of course, it has transformed its shape as well. So, the usage of AI. Let me give it a little different perspective from the usage of AI to the problematic scenarios of AI and where privacy comes in as well. So AI, I think, has enormous potential, right? And it's already there, so you can't live without it, right? And as always, the regulations are only catching up with technology, right? And moreover, my cybersecurity expert would also agree that cyber is also catching up with technology. I mean, the hackers are always ahead. Otherwise, they will not have an interesting job to do, right? So there are wonderful usages of AI if it is used appropriately in the fintech industry. I've made notes so that I don't miss out on anything. To start with, for example, you can customer experience, right? It's an excellent opportunity to have a much better customer experience using AI, using chatbots, and using document verification is another example where you can use AI platforms to ensure the document verification happens smoothly and in a much faster manner than having a human intervention to be able to service the customer better, right? That's one thing. And then fraud protection. Fraud protection, be it cybersecurity or be it document fraud, right? AI can play a significant role in document in fraud protection. Risk assessment, not only about the overall platform risk, but the individual's risk, the consumer's risk, right? You look at it from a borrower as well as from the lender perspective, both have equal potential of benefiting from AI, right? You can predictive analysis, you can actually look at what the spend of the individual is, what the kind of portfolio the individual has, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, all these aspects come with privacy angle. How much deeper can you go? And also, if you look at AI, it is very important to understand what the data source for AI is. It's like garbage in, garbage out. I mean, if you have a biased system, your output will also be biased, right? If you have a discriminated system, your output will also be discriminated. A few examples could be, let's say the loan defaulters are from a particular area. A very popular US example is the black-dominated area are more defaulters. So that doesn't mean to say a bias should be built in to discriminate anybody who's applying for a loan or anybody who's coming to open an account, so that you end up with discriminative practices, and so on and so forth. I mean, the list can go on, right? Now coming to deepfakes, I think it's a significant problem in the fintech world, not only in the fintech world, but across the ecosystem, the digital ecosystem, right? Deepfakes, then you have this cloning and so on and so forth. A few examples of deepfakes which I have encountered when speaking to customers are primarily KYC deepfakes, where you have videos that are fabricated. You have ghost deepfakes, that means to say you are impersonating a deceased person, right? And then you have deepfakes where you are collaborating with data that you have acquired from different sources, and you're creating a new person, right? The person doesn't even exist. And you're creating a new person, and then you open an account and then start trading on that account and start using it for malicious intent. So deepfakes has a significant impact on the fintech ecosystem. But at the same time, it can be controlled, right? It doesn't mean to say that we are completely vulnerable to deepfakes. It can definitely be controlled, and there are a lot of tools that have come up on deepfake identification. Some very interesting tools that I have come across is, I was actually surprised to see that through a video, you can actually assess a person's blood flow, right? The facial blood flow. At the same time, there's another concept called liveliness of the person, right? When a deepfake will not be able to create that liveliness, right? The expressions on the person. You can, if you'll notice, most of the deepfakes, it's more the eyes and the lips that are actually doing the work, right? So there are algorithms that are built where you can detect the liveliness of the person. At the same time, there are certain tools that are used in deepfake identification, which actually look at the lips only, right? Because there is a lot of coordination that we human eye cannot make out. The lip syncing and the eyes and the overall facial expression. So there is a lot of technology. Of course, there is a significant amount of investment that needs to go in as well. So that's the kind of line where you draw. I mean, do you want to really wait for something large to happen, or do you want to wait for something, or do you want to predict it and catch something early? And I'm sure you've heard of these two recent examples where there was a video call that was completely run by a deepfake environment, right? So you had the CEO, you had the CFO, everybody asking you to transfer the accounts team huge amount of money, and that was completely run by a deepfake scenario. So with that point, I would like to say awareness is significantly important. You can't leave everything to technology, right? I keep quoting this example, data privacy versus data security. They are not the same, but they need to go hand in hand, right? Data security is putting boundaries around how people can access data, right? Are you keeping it safe? Are you encrypting data, and so on and so forth? Data privacy is, are you collecting data properly? Are you using it properly in the rightful manner, and so on? So I can go on and on and on, but let me stop here. Yeah, that's my take on the first.
So we can hear you for eternity. I know you have the kind of knowledge and experience that you have that will be enlightening our audience, but yes, respecting the time. So yes, in terms of data privacy, like for example, we being as LexComply on the compliance side of the business, I was just sharing with Jagannath so that we store a lot of confidential data about our clients on our tools, about their compliances and non-compliances, and a lot of time we receive the calls to transfer or hand over or supply certain confidential information. So I think we were just telling him that we also have kind of created a process that there should be some additional checks and balances besides transferring the databases, the call, because of the kind of deepfakes calls happening around it. So now, while we have talked about the different trends and how AI has benefited, so we just thought why not to take a best use or best benefit of Ankita, who has just flight down from New Zealand to Jaipur and then here, and obviously you guys have spent a lot of time and money, that what are the key security checks and balances as tech companies or as founders we should try to have some basics checks from the security point of view from these AIs or some notorious or unethical activities?
I think, so my answer will be very short. I think
we're supposed to have a long one from you. We want to get the best benefit out of you.
because of the basics, right? So
Sure.
one thing I think that these bad actors try to do is that they create some sort of urgency, right? So first of all, being a founder of a SaaS platform, I agree to everything that Mr. Jagannath just shared. But on top of that, I think if every situation or scenario where you being a founder or an employee, someone's trying to create a situation where there is urgency involved. I need, I don't know, like, can you please transfer this money into our bank account? Or because this has happened in our organization where someone has, impersonated me and has reached out to our accounts team that, Ankita is traveling, can you, transfer her funds, because she can't. And because I was traveling, people knew in our organization. But I think what we've done really well in our organization is to make sure that we don't blame each other, but kind of like, discuss these situations, how we can equip ourselves better in this advancement phase. So what we do is, first of all, we don't take any decisions under urgency, okay? We also reach out. There's a protocol in place that if you receive an email from me, if that sounds or reads suspicious to you, give me a call or a text, right? Give it a time, give 30 minutes or, an hour. Nothing is going to change in an hour. And then take a decision. So I think the basics would be, if you're in a company, if you're working in a company or you're running a company, running these social awareness programs, training programs, because I think collaboration is key. We need to learn from each other. We need to learn from other organizations also. And then I think investing time and resources to understand what's happening in the AI phase. So learning from other organizations or just investing the time in training our employees and providing them the right resources. Because at the end of the day, if they're not equipped, as we say it in cybersecurity, humans are the weakest link. So if your people are not aware or they're not trained properly, they're going to make mistakes. So that's my take on it.
Thanks, Ankita. I think that's a very important point is like while we talk about data privacy only or data security, the first thing normally what we have seen or we talks about IT. So it's not just about IT, it's also about the individual conduct. So it's very, very, I think the first and the foremost thing is to sensitize the team members about how to respond to a sensitive data in a given situation. So just like Ankita, I've just given an example that you may receive a call of urgency or maybe a normal communication, but it's important what data it is talking about. So it's so what we do.
And on top of that, I recently last month my dad received a call from BSNL office saying that your electricity would not be running if you don't pay the bill on time. And my dad being not so technology savvy, he transferred the money and it was 30,000 gone. So, and this can happen to anybody. So I think talking about these more often and just sharing as much as we can is going to help everybody.
Yes, absolutely. So I think that sensitization, the training aspect is the key. If to invest on the training and sensitizing the team members is very important. So Tarun, I just come to you now. While you deal with the banking sector and the fintech, So what kind of initiatives you see are being taken by the banking or fintech industry standalone basis or maybe in collaboration with the government or regulators? So if you can just share some insight on that, please.
I think the people that I've worked with is firstly, we understand that there is a problem. And firstly, then we come to know how did the problem arise? What is the tactics that has been used? And this is constantly a work in progress for us to start, creating that product, creating use cases, because every incident is a learning process for us. Collaborating with certain cyber experts has been very helpful for us to, create that technology where we know that, from what is the incident that the person can be defrauded with. And with the mobile number also that we have come up with multiple database sources, we actually get to know what is the behavioral pattern and whether it is as per the individual, whether he goes for the respective products, does he pay his bill on time, and if there's something not paid on time also, certain auto pay functionality also, that also has come up with certain defrauding mechanisms as well over here. UPI has been one of the primary ways that people have been saying ki idhar transfer kar do, udhar transfer kar do. This is for your own bills itself. So that's where educating the individual, like what Ankita has told, making sure that at least your friends and families are notified that these are the things that are happening. Of course, everyone knows that WhatsApp University also is there to spread all rumors which are not even happening as well. Making sure that at least in the banking sector, we keep talking. We have these groups that every time we send screenshots and see this is one of the cases, so that it's not just one bank, but the other banks who are collaborated with the fintechs as well is also understanding that, okay, these are the another steps that has to be covered as well.
Thanks, Tarun. I think that's really insightful. Anand, I just also ask for the very similar questions to you, that you also deal with a lot of personal data. You have access to a lot of government websites. You have access to a lot of corporate data, personal data, KYCs, litigations. How do you have kind of build those checks and balances to secure the misuse of this and threats from the AI?
Well, I mean, Gaurav, see, today the reality of life is that, you cannot live without AI, right? So it's impacting your life every time, right? The question is, how do you create a balance? There's a thin line between being effective and being somebody doing a fraud on you, right? So, when we look at data, right? So, very, very closely, what we also, it's also about how efficiently we're managing those data points, right? So how we're really doing it, and when we look at the entire, especially the fintech and the banking space, what we see, it's been quite an evolving stage in terms of data security, in terms of how how encryption is happening, how some of these things are, like the entire, for example, the entire API story is completely based on encryption. So, and we've seen this lot of checks and balances that you really build in all of these, and and when we see that when we work with APIs, especially with banks, we realize that there's a lot of checks and balances that have been built across, and there's been continuous monitoring of what's happening around. How do we really ensure we hold those data? And I think most of the data today is all in encrypted form, right? So I think one of the most important thing for us to do is to ensure that we are really putting those security checks and balances in place. And that has really helped, right? That has really helped us to ensure. And especially what we've seen is that it's been quite an evolving stage. We've learned so much. Let's say 3 years back, how we used to really look at this data, how we really used to share some of this data. We've seen much has changed. There's a lot of, as Tarun rightly said, there's a lot of customer awareness that is required, right? And I think one of the biggest thing that, what even Ankita said is the customer awareness. And today, with frauds happening very rampantly, it's very important to be aware what's happening. It's very important to communicate the kind of frauds that they happen. And And one thing that we really tell our, our partners is that KYC are the first level is even if there is people doing a fraud on the KYC, the next is the transaction, right? So you really need to create not just the KYC but also a very strong transaction monitoring mechanism. Because somebody may pass through your KYC, but where you will get caught is in the wrong transaction. You will really be able to figure out if somebody has been misusing those transactions, right? So you need to build up a system which is like together along with KYC also should be a transaction monitoring system in place. And especially in the fintechs, especially with banks, right? And we have seen that wherever partners have been able to bridge the gap together in both the KYC and as well as the transaction monitoring process, we've been able to do much more in terms of safeguarding the system, safeguarding the KYC, safeguarding the transactions. And that's been the real use case that we've been looking at.
Thanks, Anand. I think this process will go on with the new challenges being posed and new innovations, the innovations being coming around the product cycle that you have. So while we all know that this data protection is a talked about subject today, a lot of regulations being built up. Historically, we have intermediary regulations, information technology, reasonable security regulations, a lot of regulations being talked about at the global level around AI. But we also see there is a sense of self-regulation being also promoted by Government of India, wherein they are advising the corporates to be self-regulated in different sectors, and therein the best practices comes into place. So who better than be hearing from you, Mr. Jagannathan, about what are the best practices as LTIMindtree tend to follow for data privacy point of view, while you are having a global operations and clients across the sector?
See, I wouldn't give you our company's view.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, obviously, company's view.
It's my personal view.
Yeah.
Of course, there is a lot of regulations that are coming up, especially personal data. Almost 120 countries either have personal data laws or they are coming up with personal data laws. India is a classic example with DPDPA coming into picture. We're all looking forward for it to materialize, and it's passed as a law, but it needs to be enacted. And I think it's a great thing that India is also talking about an AI Act.
Yes.
Right? In 6 months' time, Mr. Rajiv Chandrasekhar, he was quoting that we'll come up with a framework in 6 months. So globally, what we have seen from an AI perspective is there are some jurisdictions that are taking a regulatory measure. There are some jurisdictions that are actually going the softer path, primarily because to encourage businesses and a self-regulating model. Like the EU AI Act is predominantly a regulatory mechanism, a risk-based model, where you have different levels of risk, and there is a restricted risk and the medium risk and so on. And of course, it's parameters on how you govern it. Whereas the UK has an AI assurance model, right? So that means to say they give you certain framework in transparency, accountability, traceability of data that comes in, then explainability of the AI algorithm that you use and so on. So if you have that framework, then you can assess the human rights risk, you can assess the AI algorithmic risk, the bias risk, and very interestingly, they also come up with the existential risk. Of course, it's a long shot on the existence. So with AI coming in, how is it going to impact the existence of human intervention? Right, that's another new risk that has come out in the recent past. And then there is new terminologies like AI poisoning, right? How is that going to impact? So Singapore also has come up with an advisory mechanism, whereas China has a regulatory plus advisory mechanism. Very recently, Saudi Arabia has also come up with an advisory mechanism in terms of a framework and governance model. So it's a mixed flavor of different regulations on different countries looking at it different way. Nobody wants to stop innovation. That is very clear, right? So they want to control innovation or ask you to ensure that innovation is done in such a way that it doesn't impact human beings, right? I think that's been the theme, because especially when it comes to technology and AI, it has gone leaps and bounds. It's really tough to catch the kind of advances it has made. So I keep making this very, not loose comment, but very free-flowing comment, saying that I think all the big companies, they have already factored in a budget for fines, right? So if you look at it, nobody is changing their way of working, irrespective of the kind of fines that they are being slapped at. Right? So because their ROI on this investment is much, much larger than the fine. So fine is a minuscule. So that should change, right? And that's going to be very difficult to change. So I would say, keeping in mind regulatory norms, keeping in mind guidances, if you build a framework that is accountable, that is transparent enough, that can be traced, right? Because like I said, garbage in, garbage out. So if you're feeding in biased data, your output will be biased, right? So very important to look at traceability and explainability of the AI model on how it transitions to the output. I think that's an effective governance mechanism that should be driven by an exclusive AI governance board. That is also another theme that is coming out. In fact, the very recent AI guidance that Indian government has initiated, they have formed task forces for almost, I think, 8 or 9 task forces to come up with certain themes of AI governance. Not just governance, data collection, then training, building or taking AI to schools and colleges to bring the younger generation up to speed on what's happening on technology and what they need to think in terms of using technology in a proper manner, and so on and so forth. And then you have the governance working group and so on. So there's a lot of initiatives that the government is taking. I'm not a speaker for the government, but I'm really impressed with the way they are looking at it, because I have personally been interacting with them on DPDPA. In fact, I'm also publishing a paper with NASSCOM and DSCI day after tomorrow on privacy by design. So I'm seeing that involvement. It's been extensive, and I think it's a great direction to go. But one last point is India is taking a very balanced approach. Even if you look at DPDPA, it's a framework that they have given, and there will be a set of rules, and there is a balance. They are not stopping innovation, they are encouraging innovation. And while some of us may say, hey, you know what, this is not stringent enough. But with the kind of ecosystem that we have, we cannot be stringent. We'll only be a failure if we are super stringent, because how many times have we given our phone numbers at the entrance of an apartment? You don't know what's going to be happening, right? And because you're identified with your phone number, and tomorrow somebody else is going to be calling you, and I'm a data privacy guy, and I have to enter the apartment, I have to give it. I can't say, no, it's privacy, you will not. He'll say, you can't enter the apartment, right? So I think it's a very balanced approach India is taking, which is really good to see, and I'm looking forward for this progress in the Indian economy.
Thank you, sir. So thanks to all our panelists for guiding us around the benefits of AI and how this AI, which is a path-breaking technology, will continue to strive a remarkable journey and bringing a lot of startups, fostering a lot of startups in this entire ecosystem. And most important is, I think, the whole idea is that government, which is taking a balanced approach or an enabling approach rather than I would say discouraging you, it's more of like enabling you and moving towards more and more regime of self-regulatory. In fact, if you see rightly stated DPDP Act or IT Reasonable Security Regulations, if you read it, it's a plain, simple guidance to be followed, which is more of a conduct, right, to be done. So it's very, very important to sensitize the team how to conduct and how to be responsible while you are using new technologies like artificial intelligence or maybe anything which is evolving in future out of this entire ecosystem of technology. So I thank you all and look forward to interact more in coming sessions in future.